Before we do any of that, we have to talk about Coach Case. Wait, no, I'm sorry. We have to talk about Kansas and Texas going into overtime, delaying the start of the broadcast for Duke and North Carolina. It's been a wild day, RC. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. We got a lot to discuss. There was a lot going on in that Carolina Duke game too. I lost the
Yeah,
bet actually. I actually made a bet saying that they would just switch automatically to the game, but they
yeah.
didn't.
No, they
So
did not. They did not. We got to watch the end of Kansas and Texas, which actually was a better game than what we saw at Duke, North Carolina. So let's start there. Let's start Duke, North Carolina, because this was Coach K's last game. They lost 94-81. What it seemed to me like this Duke team kind of came out a little bit tight. And look, we talked about this leading up to this game. There was a lot of pressure on those kids and on those on those players, young players, to be able to go out and perform in a situation like that.
to me, that's what they came out with a lot of enthusiasm, making mistakes, turning the ball over, missing shots. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. Not just that last game, but you look up and all the reasons why you went to Duke are sitting there also. All the former players was there, some Hall of Famers. A lot of guys were over there that made that uniform what it is. And so you can see that when they came out today. There was no doubt about that. There was some anxiety about playing, but I thought they got themselves back into the game. But kudos to Carolina. They definitely were a better team tonight.
Yeah, they were. I don't think Duke was able to stop them. How much pressure do you think that they were feeling? I mean, look, you lost. You were
Yeah.
the guys that lost Coach Hayes' last game ever in Cameron
Yeah.
Indoor Stadium. Like, how do you come back from that?
You know what they look like? They look like a team that mentally tapped out from all of the distractions this has provided all year long. And it came down to this last game, and they look like the young guys just crumbled under it. They look like they crumbled under the pressure of the expectations of this season long last dance of Coach K. And that's what the team looked like to me.
Yeah, it was not the easiest situation, as we have Jeff Goodman trying to figure this thing out, trying to get in on here. Jeff, I remember the first time that I ever used a cell phone. How you doing, man?
I'm great. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Got
we
you.
can. We can.
He's
Well,
back.
listen, my laptop wasn't working. I had to look at this. This is a mess, a complete disaster. But we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work.
So you were in the building tonight. You were in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Talk us through what that vibe was like, what the experience was like, what the scene was like. Because at the end of the day, we had all this pomp and circumstance and show, and this whole party for Coach K that got spoiled by the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the lead up, and obviously in Krzyzewskiville today, it was awesome. 70 degrees, and it was packed there today. The last couple of days were kind of underwhelming, to be honest. All the tents were gone by the time we kind of got there. There were some around the football stadium, but it didn't have the vibe. And today it did. Today it did, and then you kind of got in, and you're hearing the names, who's going to show up: Jerry Seinfeld, Adam Silver, and obviously all the players. You're hearing, in the 100 range. And then the coolest part was definitely right before the game with 15 minutes on the clock, all the players walking out in two lines, and then Coach K walking in between them. And you just see like Christian Leitner just acting like a complete child, laughing, screaming, Jay Wills screaming, people using their cell phones like grown men, taking their cell phones out, like not just grown men, but like good players taking their cell phones out, and like Andre Dawkins, taking video of the crowd and everything that was going on. And, Cameron's always, to me, 1A or 1B, and Randolph can talk about this as much as anybody. It's 1A or 1B in terms of the best environments in college basketball. And today it gets to a different level, obviously. But we saw the pressure. There was pressure on these kids. We didn't want to believe it, and we felt like, hey, they could coast through and still beat Carolina. Carolina played so loose. You could tell there was no pressure on them.
Don't say we, okay? Don't say we. Don't say we. Say I didn't believe it. Because what did I tell you? What did I tell you on Thursday night? What did I say?
No, you hedged. You hedged as much as anybody could ever hedge. So that's a bunch of bullshit. You did not think there was any chance Carolina was going to win this game.
I said
No,
I would
you
not
did
be
not.
surprised if North Carolina won. I had their first
shut
half
up.
line.
We'll
I
play
did
the
not.
other part of the clip.
I did not take their full game line. What did you say?
Play
You
the
said you would need.
points.
You said you would need to lay 42 points to take North Carolina. No, but all serious, let's talk about Carolina here, RC, because the Tar Heels, how long have we been saying it? I feel like we've been saying it for like 6 weeks. North Carolina has to win this game to get in the NCAA tournament. And how many times did we say they got to do it, but they ain't doing that?
Right. I don't think any of us believe it. I think they're playing their best basketball. They've come a long way this year. The one thing I will say, and I had a vote for the ACC Player of the Year and all my vote, for Coach of the Year and all those things. The one player I felt deserved some recognition that I didn't give any, because I always say, you got to give credit to guys that win it. This team will finish second in the league. You hear about Armando Bacot. We know he's going to be first team. We talk about Love, but I thought RJ Davis is emerging as a really good point guard. His decision making, his ability to take shots, just watching him play a couple of times, he's gotten better, and he's deserving of some recognition. And his consistency and his better play as a point guard allows that team and the other guys, the specialty guys, kind of do what they do. If he continues to be solid, we always know they got talent, but he's someone that deserves, he deserves his flowers right now. He's been playing really, really well.
Yeah, you know who else deserves their flowers is Hubert Davis. This was a guy, I said this a week ago. Yeah. This was a guy that we were all crushing. All three of us did. Well, I don't know if you did. I did.
I did. No doubt. We did. I did.
And so,
but deservedly so. And now, like you said, give him his props because he earned it tonight. I mean, he came out there and got his team ready. And listen, I'll give Kay credit afterwards. And this was kind of the cool part too, was they lose. And you're like, all right, how is Kay going to handle this prepared post-game ceremony, right? Where the president comes out. I don't even know who else spoke. I wasn't paying attention. But like 2 or 3 people spoke, bestowing honors on them. The president put a scholarship in their family's name, all this stuff. And then Kay, before this even starts, he grabs the mic and he basically says, this is impromptu. And he says, I'm sorry. That loss was unacceptable. And you hear his family. His family is basically trying to like, no. And he's like, no, be quiet. Like, I want to do this. I'm sorry. This was unacceptable. But the season's not over. And then, again, they go through the whole ceremony. And then he takes the mic again for kind of a, more prepared, thoughtful deal. And here was the coolest part. The coolest part of the night, honestly, and the part that got me emotional as a father was him going over to his 3 daughters afterwards, after a loss like that, and nearing the end, and his 10 grandkids. And they ran over and they got Michael Savarino, who was on the bench, like everybody else. They couldn't even watch. They played a video after. And Paolo, I don't know if you saw the video I took, Theo John, could not even look up at the video. They were like glazed looks in their eyes. They just so disappointed in what they had just done. And then they ran over the other, I assume it was maybe his sister, ran over and got Michael Savarino, the walk-on on the team, and brought him over. And they had kind of a group hug. And I don't know, maybe it's just bothering me now with my daughter going off to Indiana soon and just understanding it and it hitting me. But I did. I got really emotional at that point. Just again, the thought of this guy's career is basically coming to a conclusion now. And I felt honestly very grateful to be in the building for this game, one of 9,300 people that was there to be able to watch the end of it. And I said that to Kay afterwards. I did. I went up to him at the very end and I said, listen, man, I got into this business. I never thought I'd have a relationship with you or some of these other guys. And I appreciate you, actually giving me the time of day.
Right. So does this kind of kill, RC? Does this kill the hopes that Duke has of getting a 1 seed in this year's tournament?
Well, no, because we know Arizona and Gonzaga, I think we pretty much sure they have the 1. Baylor and Kansas.
Arizona. I
You don't think
Get the
Arizona?
Arizona love for number 1 seed, but that's just me as an Arizona
Well,
love.
we'll get to
I'm an
we'll get to
Arizona
that. We'll
love.
get that. We'll
Yeah,
get to
okay.
that. We'll get to that.
Well,
We'll get to that.
right
We'll get
now,
to that.
I'll say that because I don't see anybody beating them in the Pac-12 tournament. That's why I think they'll get it, right? I think Gonzaga will get, they'll get their number 1 seed. Auburn and Kentucky. How does that play out? Only one of them can get it. And where does the Kansas bet? I think they're outside looking in, depending on how the rankings go. I think Kansas and the winner of the Auburn Kentucky kind of rounds it out. But Jeff, it's not like I think they have the best resume. I just don't believe there's no one that I think they're going to win the Pac-12. And I just think that you have to give it to them at that point. That's why I say that.
I just think if Wisconsin wins the Big Ten tournament, I would give it to Wisconsin over Arizona. I would, personally. I think they deserve it. I just think, again, I've been beating the drum. I know we're tired of hearing it, but you look at it. It's not even comparable. If they both win their conference tournaments, Wisconsin's going to have to get through a lot more in its conference tournament than Arizona will. Listen, they're playing the Sisters of the Poor until they get to maybe UCLA.
Hey Jeff, before we leave off Carolina, I got a question. Did you notice anything? Going through the handshake line, Curwell and those guys didn't shake their hand. Was there anything said about that? Like, wow, it was weird when they showed it. And I'm wondering, like, something's got to give because in that moment, I know Kay can't be happy about that, particularly because everybody saw it. Like, this is out there now. Like, I'm wondering, was anything said about that?
Kay knew. I don't think Kay knew when he talked to us. I'd be surprised. Now, like Caleb Love was he getting after the student, the Cameron Crazies. He was talking shit after the game to him, and rightfully so. Listen, you want it too.
You have to, because I myself got some flack for that. I threw ball, I threw gum, I've thrown everything. But what they say to you at times, like you earn the right to say it back. You went in there with the stuff that flies out of those kids' mouths. You damn right you get to repeat and go back at them. So I'm not faulting Love for anything that. But again, we go back to that same thing with the handshake line or whatever. Like, you got your ass kicked. You walk out there, I don't care. You shake their hand. You just got your ass whooped.
And Hubert, listen, you will never, ever, ever hear anybody say a bad word about Hubert Davis. Never, as a human being. I don't know. I'll find out, but I don't know yet.
I do know that Caleb Love and Theo John they've been having a little bit of a war of the words on Instagram and on Twitter, and like diving into what has actually happened there is not really something that we need to do on the radio right now. But there was a little beef, which is why in the first half, remember when Theo John fell down and tackled Caleb Love, you saw Caleb Love get up in his face before Theo was like, yo, my bad. I fell over. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. But they were going at it. They were going at it for a little while. So I wonder if that also played a role in it as well. What's the ceiling for this North Carolina team? Because the frustrating thing for me about them is this is the team that I expected to see all season long.
Sure.
This was what I thought this group was going to be able to do all season long. And the fact that it took playing at Cameron in a game like this, RC, to be able to get that out of them is something that is, it's a little frustrating that it took this long to be able to see this kind of performance out of that team.
Well, it's the only team they provided all year long that we respected the resume of them enough to say, hey, this is a qualified win. Everyone else kicked their ass. Like, they deserved all the bashing we gave them. And they've gotten better. Like I said, we talked about it. They didn't deserve anything early on. And it wasn't just close losses. They were 20-point butt whoopings, and so they set a record. They lost by over 50 points in back-to-back losses to Wake and Miami, and teams that we didn't have in. They were like bubble teams. They're barely in now.
This is their first win over a tournament team that, unless you count Michigan. Michigan is technically, I guess, a tournament team, and they're going to have to do some work to get in. Right now, I think they're probably on the wrong side of the bubble. I think the fielding, the 68 guys, had them on the wrong side of the bubble. So that is the only win that North Carolina has over a tournament team, and it might not even be a tournament team. So they finally this was big. They needed this.
I felt like this was more about Duke in a way than it was about Carolina. I just didn't think Duke played well at all. Defensively, like, you can't let RJ Davis get to the basket. He was getting the basket whenever he wanted tonight with no help. And like Mark Williams, he never kind of got in a flow, never ran away. Like, they actually had a couple blocks, one by Griffin late, that turned into a Mark Williams dunk that I thought that was going to be it. And really, when I thought it was going to be it was when Baycott picked up his second foul.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like 5 minutes left in the first half, and I looked over at Norlander, who was sitting next to me, and I said, "They're going to be up. You watch. Duke's going to be up by 8 at the end of the first half." And I don't even know what they're up by. Was it more than 8, 10, something like that in the first
No,
half?
they were up.
No.
They,
No,
were- they were
2.
they were up 2 at halftime, but that's because
Right.
North Carolina hit 2 threes
Hit the
in the
run.
last
Yep.
minute.
Right. It was like 8 or 10 quickly after Baycott got his second. And he was pleading. He was pleading Sean May to let him go back in the game. And I actually thought he should. I thought they were going to, honestly, I thought the game was going to be over. It looked like it was going to be at that point. And then they were able to go in at the half down too, which was huge for Carolina. But I think Duke's got some stuff they got to clean up here on the defensive end. And to me, I'm telling you, they didn't look good defensively.
They do, and they're not great defensively, right? Like they have the tools to be good, but Mark Williams can get beat a little bit of ball screens, but I think at the end of the day, like this was about what North Carolina can be when they play their best, when they're actually engaged, when they're actually trying hard. Because my thing with this Carolina team, and Jeff, we talked about this way back at Mohegan Sun. They lost to Tennessee. This team can't take a punch, right? But tonight they did. Tonight, Duke went on that run. Like North Carolina was up early, and then Duke went up 8 or 10 at the end of the first half, and North Carolina answered. And that was the first time that we've seen them get punched and answer, right? We've seen them have issues on the defensive end of the floor all season long, and that's never going to change. They don't have great individual defenders, and we don't have great individual defenders. It's very hard to be a good defensive team. But they have enough weapons offense. Like you give me Caleb Love, RJ Davis, Brady Manick spacing the floor, and Armando Bacot inside, and you should be able to get me 80 points any night, any given night. So to me, it was the fact that 1, they didn't roll over and die when they got punched, and 2, they found a way to get it done, and they kept playing hard. Like that. That is what we've been looking for out of this North Carolina. RC, yeah, you cover the ACC, man. You're on the ACC network. You do this. Am I wrong there? Like I feel like we finally saw North Carolina hit their ceiling and be their best.
I'm wondering if it's that though, Rob, or is it because it's the rivalry? If you can't get up for the ACC, I mean, probably the greatest rivalry in college athletics. Like if you can't get up for that, you got no pulse. And let's be honest, that arena, Jeff, you was there. It had to be amazing. I mean, you got movie stars. I mean, you got the commissioner of the NBA. You have everybody. That's the best arena of athletes environment that they're ever going to play in, that any of those kids ever going to play in, and
they were loose, and loose,
and Duke helped them. I believe if Duke came out early and punched them in the mouth and really played well early, then I wonder if that comes out. But they were the team that got going early, so it was like, all right, you know what? We know we belong. We know we can play with these guys. Then when Armando goes in that little run, then they come back and hit those threes and get back, and then they play. I'm like, all right, we got ourselves a game. They were feeding off of it. They were the ones that feeding off it. And my biggest concern, I go back with Jefferson, I'm more worried about Duke because they look like a bunch of young guys that just exhausted from all of the Coach K talk. Like these, we say what we want.
That might be fair, RC.
They're a young team, and they look like they are crumbling under. Like it's been all you guys know. It's like being around in a professional locker room and you get beat. That's like the Lakers or something. You get beat down with all this negative talk all year long, and they're a young team. There's no veteran senior leadership going there. They're a freshman sophomore led team. I think they're crumbling under the expectation, this fair wear tour, all the stuff that's come with it. I think it's just wearing these guys out.
Well, I made that point before this game started, right? Like I think that this game was going to be about Coach K more than it was going to be about Duke playing North Carolina for a number of reasons. But the biggest reason why, what is Duke playing for here, right? The only thing that they were playing for was to give Coach K a win on his last game. And when but I know, but when the level is okay, you just got to make sure you don't lose in Coach K's last game, as opposed to okay, we need this win to win an ACC regular season title. We need this win to make sure we're going to be a number 1 seed. We need this win for this. We need this win for that.
It's more pressure.
Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is like Duke. There was nothing to gain from this win. There was only stuff to lose for Duke, right? Whereas North Carolina, they are playing for their NCAA tournament lives. And I think we saw them play like that. Whereas we saw a Duke team that was playing like, oh, shit, I really hope we don't lose this game.